James Egan Holmes, case number 12CR 1522. The record should reflect that Mr. Holmes is present with his attorneys, and the prosecutors are present as well. We are outside the presence of the jury. About 5 or 10 minutes ago, I issued order C-201, and so pursuant to that order, I'm going to ask my staff to tender the packet of records from the University of Colorado that were produced in response to PSDT-2. All right, Ms. Gerlings. And are the parties ready for the jury? Defense ready? Yes. Okay, let's bring him in, please. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has joined us again. Welcome back, folks. Please be seated, everyone. Please call your next witness, Mr. Brockler.
People call Dan Tolene to the stand.
Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first and last names?
My name's Daniel Joshua Tolene. It's D-A-N-I-E-L-T-O-L-L-I-N.
And how do you spell your middle name?
J-O-S-H-U-A.
All right, Mr. Brockler, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, would you please tell us what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm an associate professor with tenure at the University of Colorado School of Medicine in the Department of Physiology and Biophysics.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, I've been doing research for probably 24 years, but I've been at the University of Colorado for 10 years.
In terms of the path that you took to get to be part of the Department of Physiology, tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I actually started here in Colorado. I grew up here in Colorado, graduated from Fort Morgan High School, went to Boston University after that, took a degree in biomedical engineering. After my undergraduate work, I did a PhD in experimental psychology from Oxford University, came back to the United States, did some postdoctoral work at the University of Wisconsin, and then arrived here back in Colorado in 2005.
What's the path from engineering to neuroscience? How do we get you into the neuroscience program?
Yeah, I always had an interest in music. I've played the cello all my life and wanted to understand how the auditory system worked. So during my undergraduate years, I worked in a research laboratory that studied the auditory system, so how the auditory system works and how it is damaged and how we might be able to repair that through the use of hearing aids and other prosthetic devices. So there was the nexus between engineering and the brain, and I've sort of continued that work ever since.
How much of your career has been then in neuroscience, or is that something that's unique to your time at CU?
No, neuroscience is a pretty broadly defined field. Anything that has to do with the study of the brain and its function and dysfunction. And a lot of different avenues bring researchers to the study of neuroscience, including my own, engineering. So people come from a variety of different academic and background trainings to the field of neuroscience.
With your experience in the neuroscience program here at CU,
Yep.
have you also been a participant in the interviewing process for prospective new neuroscience program students?
I have. I've participated in the interview process on the admissions committee for the last 6 years, the last 3 of which I've been the director of admissions.
Now, does that include the period 2011, 2012?
It does not, but I was on the committee for 2 years prior to that in just a committee member role.
We have heard that incoming students interview with 6-ish or 7-ish professors. Are you one of those people that they would have interviewed with in 2011?
Yes,
And did you in fact have the opportunity to interview the defendant here in the blue shirt with the white stripes and glasses?
I did, yes.
Tell us about when that took place.
That must have been in January or February of 2011. Yeah, I had the chance to meet with the defendant for about 35 minutes or so during the interview.
And we've heard about a lot of the process of what it takes to get to be invited out to do the interview. What I want to ask you about is in that 35 minutes or so that you spent with the defendant, describe for us how he presented himself and his affect, that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, initially we get to see the applications on paper, right? In terms of his paper qualifications, they were outstanding. Probably one of the best we've seen in some time in that program. Face to face, things were a little bit different, and that's of course why we interview people to see whether the sort of paper document and qualifications match up with the person. He was a bit quiet, but many of the people that we interview are quiet. Sometimes it's their first time that they've actually had an interview, right? So a lot is riding on it for them as an applicant. So a bit quiet, a bit reserved. But he did ask good questions. He asked specific questions about my research. I recall that he must have downloaded some of my scientific publications and asked some questions specifically about those.
Based on that interview that you did and the other things you've talked about, did you recommend that the school make an offer of admission to the defendant?
I did, yes.
And so that's not the last time you saw him then, was February-ish of 2011. Is that fair?
Could you?
That's not the last time you saw
Oh,
him.
certainly not. That's not the last time I saw him. Yeah.
When's the next time you had interaction with him?
The next time I had interaction was probably in January of 2012. I am part of the systems neuroscience course, which teaches students about all aspects of the sensory systems and neuroscience in general. And I teach for 1 week in that program. That must have been in January of 2012. I teach about the visual system in that block.
Do you recall the defendant from that week that you spent in January teaching that class?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
During the week that I lecture, I give a couple lectures in the beginning of the week on basic aspects of function, but towards the end of the week, the students have to read papers from the basic literature and discuss those, and the defendant, of course, participated in those, and I again remember him being somewhat quiet and reserved in those interactions.
Other than being quiet and reserved, did you feel like he had the intellect and ability to master the material nonetheless?
Sure, yeah, there's a couple ways we assess that, even in my short time, in my 1 week block. One of the requirements is the students have to write up a little sort of 1-page assessment of their readings of the scientific literature, and the defendant did quite well in that. I thought he summarized the discussions in the papers quite well. I also give out a little homework assignment on the topics that were covered, and the students have to basically, they have 1 week to do those and then turn those into me via email, and he did quite well on those. And the purpose of that homework is to basically prepare the students for the upcoming kind of final examination in that course.
Sounds like in writing he did really well.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, that wasn't your last opportunity to evaluate the defendant's ability to analyze and write on some pretty complicated topics in neuroscience, fair?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Also in that, in the spring semester, this would have been 2012, spring semester in general for the neuroscience graduate course, I run what we call a grant writing course. So writing and obtaining a grant funding for research is an important part of what basic scientists do. So we basically spend one semester, it's a 1-credit course on grant writing, in which we sort of take the students through the process of writing a National Institutes of Health type grant proposal, and during that course I had interactions with the defendant.
How many class meetings are there for this mock grant writing proposal class?
Yeah, this is a different type of course. It's less didactic. That means less sort of stand-up and teaching by me, and it's more sort of one-on-one type of interaction. But for that course, there were 3 in-class lectures, one at the beginning of the semester in they don't provide the research funding directly. So it's up to us as scientists to write proposals, mostly to the National Institutes of Health, to receive funding to do the type of science that we would like to do. So it's essential.
Were there significant portions of the course that also took place via email, back and forth with drafts and proposals and conversations?
Yep. So a good part of the course is also correspondence back and forth with the students in the class, where they receive feedback on some of the work that they are putting together.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1206?
Yes.
Sir, I'm handing you what has been marked as People's 1206. Would you take a look at that and tell me if you recognize what that contains? I think we tabbed them.
Yeah, this looks like most of the email, or at least all that I know of the email correspondence regarding this grant writing course that I had, not only with it's kind of the general correspondence with some of the other students in the course, but also correspondence with the defendant.
Does that block, that 1206 of emails, accurately capture the email conversations that you had with the defendant about his performance in your course?
Yes.
Doesn't look like anything's been amended or added or changed in any way?
No.
Do those emails also include the draft proposals themselves that were the product of some critique and some suggestions, and then he would send them back and forth? Is that true?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1206 into evidence.
Ms. Spengler, any objection to P-TR-1206?
Your Honor, this is my witness.
Oh, Ms. Higgs, any objection?
Yes, I can make it here at the bench as the court pleases.
Why don't you approach, please?
Okay.
All right, Exhibit P-TR-1206 is admitted.
I'm sorry, Eric, was I able to continue?
Yes?
Thank you, I'm sorry. 1206, I think we just got that admitted. Let me ask you, in terms of the performance that the defendant had in the class, you had the opportunity, and many of the examples are contained in 1206, to evaluate his ability to write these grant proposals as instructed and respond to critiques and criticism. How did he do?
Yeah, he did, I think he did outstanding. He put together a very nice proposal. We talked, some of which is in these emails, about various constructive criticisms about how to phrase things differently. Part of writing a good proposal is you're trying to sell a research idea, essentially, and there's sort of an art there to convince somebody else that they should give you money to do the research that you're proposing. So I thought he did a very good job.
So in terms of what you were asking the students to do, it wasn't just to generate a grant proposal. You also asked them to do something else regarding each other's grant proposals. Tell us about that.
That's right. Part of the course, we want to expose the students to the whole process of grant writing, and that includes not only writing the proposal, but also what happens on the other end, reviewing the proposals. So what we have the students do is essentially review each other's proposals. So for example, that's what happens when I submit a grant to the National Institutes of Health. My peers around the country, I sometimes don't know who those are, but there are other scientists actually evaluate and review the grants that we write, and we really wanted the students to have that experience. So in addition to writing the proposal, the students have to review the proposals of 3 other students in the class.
Is it your sense that sometimes students find it difficult to critique their peers?
It's very hard to critique your peers, and some students find that difficult. They don't read the proposals in much depth, or provide just very cursory responses. So they have to provide a written document as well. Sometimes they'll say, well, this is a nice proposal, or well written, good grantsmanship, as we often say.
Smiley face.
Smiley face, but sometimes not any real content to the comments.
Now, at the very end of 1206, if you take a look, does that include the defendant's performance on the critiquing aspect of your course?
Yes.
Now, was that like you just described, with the smiley face, attaboy, super good effort, that kind of thing?
No, there are very good comments here. I should add that part of this, the review process, they give a score ranging from 1 to 9, 1 being the best, 9 being not a strong proposal. And the idea with the written comments is that you sort of give a score, and then the written comments need to sort of back that score up. So you need to provide enough commentary on the strengths of the proposal, but also the weaknesses of the proposal. And the defendant did a very good job of kind of balancing the strengths and the weaknesses in arriving at kind of the overall score that he gave to each of the 3 grants.
And that's unusual given the normal coursework provided by students?
Oh, it's not I wouldn't say unusual, but many students, because it's the end of the semester, it's sort of the last thing they do for my course. They don't take it very seriously, but the defendant in this case provided very, very solid and constructive responses, both positive, the strengths and in the weaknesses.
Now, given that, and this was a very heavily writing-intensive course, would you agree with that?
Yes.
How did you, if you can recall, grade the defendant on his performance in this writing course?
Well, I gave him an A or an A minus. I don't honestly remember, but it wouldn't have been less than an A minus. I thought he did very well. I should say that the grading for this course is not really graded upon the content of what they've written. It's more of kind of the the depth in which they participate in the course, kind of their enthusiasm for the course, and also meeting the deadlines on time. There are many deadlines in this particular course in which the students have to turn in things on time, and the defendant did that.
Did the defendant ever have any issues with getting stuff in on time?
No.
And the quality of the substance, even if that's not the bulk of the grade, would you describe it as strong?
It was strong, yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
That final grant thing. Did you see that? That's the one you got it, okay. Sir, I'm handing you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1205. Take a look at that and tell us, what is that?
Yes, this is the defendant's final grant proposal that he turned in.
Would you describe the quality of that work as strong academically?
Yeah, this is a very strong and well thought out and very well written piece of work.
This product right here, is this something that's generated in class, or is this generated outside of class and emailed to you?
Yeah, this is all generated outside of class, emailed to me, and as I've mentioned before, there's a lot of discussion back and forth between me and the students in preparation of this document. But I have no input on the scientific content. That all comes from the students.
Would this have taken, in your opinion, some significant motivation and effort?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us when on the calendar this document was provided to you.
Can I have a minute to?
Yes.
I don't remember exactly when, but it's probably in these emails somewhere.
Sorry, I should have marked it for you. I apologize.
I know that it was officially due on April 4th, but I don't know exactly when I received. Oh, here we go. This is Wednesday, April 4th, 11:19 p.m. So this is on the day it was due. So it was turned in on time.
Those critiques of the proposals, like the defendants that you described as being particularly insightful,
yes,
those were turned into you when? And I think it's the last email that you have there.
This is May 2nd.
When was the last class that you had with the defendant?
May 4.
First off, Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1205, question mark, into evidence.
Any objection?
It's the proposal.
Your Honor, we'd object as, I'm sorry, that was very loud. I object as cumulative. This is contained in the previous exhibit the prosecution already introduced. And I would incorporate my previous objections made at the bench.
Thank you. Mr. Brockler, is it true that this is already included in 1206?
Well, this is how sausage gets made, Your Honor. I'm not sure, but I'd be happy to inquire of the witness if the court would permit me.
Okay, go ahead.
Sir, if you look at 1206,
Yep.
is this final copy already in there?
Let me look.
I think you said it was due April 4th.
Yes, this is already in the prior document.
Your Honor, based on that, I'd withdraw my offer of 1205, I think, into evidence.
Okay. The offer of P-DR-1205 is withdrawn. Thank you. You may proceed.
Sir, you said your last class with the defendant was May the 4th. Here's my big global question. One, over the course of the period that you saw the defendant between February of 2011 and May 4th of 2012, would you ever have described him as being detached from reality?
No,
Over that same period of time, that 15-month period of time, did you detect any changes at all in the defendant in terms of behavior, performance, anything?
no.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I have 1 second, Your Honor.
Yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Ms. Higgs.
Good afternoon, Dr. Tolene. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Great. I don't have many questions for you. This will be relatively brief.
That's right.
I understand, though, that kind of in the field of science, is it fair to say that it wouldn't be uncommon to come across somebody who's shy and introverted?
That's right.
Okay. So that's not something that necessarily would stand out in the field of science on its own. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. When you talked about the fundamentals, I think you called it a systems neuroscience course.
Yes.
And could we have Defense Exhibit DTR 8, please? I just want to give the jury some context as far as the timing of that course, okay? And so so when you say systems neuroscience, that is the same as fundamentals of neurobiology, is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And you see that course represented on this slide?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And if we could just call that course out briefly. Oop. It's the fundamentals of neuro, right there. Yes, you got it. And so that represents the course, the first course you were talking about where you taught Mr. Holmes. Is that right?
Yes.
And those would be the dates from about November 12th, 2011 through March 9th of 2012. Is that about accurate?
I think you said November.
Oh, did I say November? I apologize. December.
That's when the total course runs. I don't teach during that entire period.
But that would have been the time frame where the course started and ended. I think you talked about January, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we can take that down for a moment. The way these courses work is there's multiple teachers that come in each week and give a lecture and are sort of responsible for that entire week. Is that right?
Yes.
Your week was January 23rd? Does that
Yeah,
sound about
that
right?
sounds right, yes.
And the course is meeting Monday, Wednesday, Friday, is that right?
Yes,
So you would have lectured that Monday and Wednesday?
yes.
And then the discussion that you talked about earlier would have taken place on Friday?
I think the way I do that, I lecture mostly just on Monday, and then we have the discussions on Wednesday and Friday.
Okay. And it is, and in those Wednesday or Friday classes, there's a student assigned to give a particular presentation each week, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. However, there is some discussion by all the students, is that fair?
that's right.
Now, Mr. Holmes was not assigned to give a presentation the week that you were teaching, is that right?
Not that I remember, no.
Okay. I also understand that overall your interactions with him in that class were fairly limited,
Yes,
and whatever interactions you would have had with him would be restricted solely to information with regard to the class, is that right?
that's right.
You didn't have any social interaction with Mr. Holmes outside of his classes?
No,
And you really had no conversations with Mr. Holmes about any topics unrelated to the coursework?
no.
Okay. You talked about the grant writing class. I just want to point out a couple things. I noticed that you had said that the final proposal was due on April 4th.
Yeah, according to the syllabus, it was April 4th.
And do you recall sending out an email basically indicating that you all were going to extend that by a week because you thought it would behoove the students to have more time?
Yeah, and I often do that every year. The students, it's the end of the semester. This is a one-credit course, but it's fairly intensive, and they usually appreciate that one additional week.
Okay. But Mr. Holmes still sent his final proposal in on the first due date, the April 4th?
He did. He turned it in on the original on time. Yep.
He did not need that extra week, is that right?
No.
And that writing, I just want to be clear, he had to correspond with the professor, you, in his course about his summary proposal and develop that into a final proposal, right?
Yes.
And that correspondence is represented in these emails, is that right?
Yeah, at least the correspondence with me in particular, yes.
Okay. And when you made suggestions or criticisms of his work, he was able to incorporate that, correct?
Yes.
You said you met with him face to face.
Yes, it's a requirement of the course to meet with me, and there's two other instructors. And the students have to meet with me because I'm the director of the course. So I met with him probably 2 or 3 times during the course.
You say probably. Does that mean you're not quite exactly sure?
Well, I meet with every student, so I met with him 2 or 3 times.
My understanding was you have indicated that indeed as well in the grant writing course you had limited interactions with Mr. Holmes. Is that fair to say?
Could you repeat that?
My understanding is that you indicated you had limited interactions with Mr. Holmes with regard to actually both of the classes that you taught him in. Is that fair to say?
I certainly had limited interactions with the fundamentals of neurobiology course, much more interaction with the grant writing course.
Okay, it was still limited to the context of the classes.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Do you recall how long these meetings were with him?
They're typically short, maybe 20 minutes.
Okay. And would they have occurred prior to the time, obviously, that the final proposal is due?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So you would have met with him then sometime in either January, February, or March, given that he turned his paper in on April 4th?
Yes.
Okay. You talked a little bit about doing the mock reviews. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I infer from your testimony that other students would have also done mock reviews of Mr. Holmes' work. Is that right?
Yes.
And he would receive that information from them. Is that correct?
Yeah, typically we send that out.
And he responded professionally to receiving critique or criticism of his work?
I don't remember any interaction or even whether I sent that out in this particular case.
Okay.
It's not in this packet of emails.
Is that something that you would have sent out via email versus giving it to him orally in the class?
Yes.
Okay. Now, even with your sort of limited experience with Mr. Holmes and focusing on his coursework, he was never unprofessional with you. Is that fair to say?
That's right.
Never rude or mean or angry or upset. Is that fair to say?
No, yes.
And I know you've described him as kind of quiet in the class, the classes that you had him in. Would it be fair to say that he didn't really draw a lot of attention to himself?
Yes.
Okay. In fact, kind of the more opposite. He opposite of drawing attention to himself, whatever that word would be. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Let me just check my notes. I think that we are done, but let me make sure. I don't have any further questions of you. Thank you for your time, Dr. Tolene.
Mr. Bruckler, do you have any redirect?
No, sir.
And it does not appear that the jury has any questions. May this witness be released from his subpoena, Mr. Bruckler? Is there any objection, Ms. Hayes?
No.
All right, thank you, sir. Call your next witness, please.
People call Justin Levesque.
Come around here. If I could have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, please be seated. Can you hand me those packets? Sure. Mr. Edson, do you want to retrieve this? This was not admitted. I don't want to confuse it. Thank you. Sir, could you please tell us your full name for the record, and please spell your first and last names?
Sure, it's Justin Henry Levesque. My first name is spelled Justin, and my last name is Lev as in Victor, ECK.
And how do you spell your middle name?
Henry, Henry.
All right, thank you. I'll ask you to pull the microphone close to your mouth. You can move the microphone to make sure we can all hear you, okay?
Okay.
All right, Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
I'm a software engineer.
Are you familiar with a company by the name of Blue Defense?
Yes.
Do you somehow work or are you affiliated with Blue Defense?
Yes, I am.
Tell the jury how you're affiliated with Blue Defense.
I'm a part owner.
What is Blue Defense?
We resell body armor from a company called International Armor.
Are you familiar with International Armor?
Yes.
What is International Armor?
They're a manufacturer of body armor.
So when you say you are a reseller, tell the jury exactly what your business is.
So we list their products on our website, and we allow those for purchase to whoever may come across the site.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you to keep your voice up into the
Sure.
microphone, please. Are items that are manufactured by International Armor sold by your company through a online website?
Yes.
How long have you been I think you said a co-owner of Blue Defense. How long have you been in that position?
It was maybe a couple years or so outside of school, college, so maybe around 2009 or so. I may have previously stated, but that's to my recollection. Yeah.
Okay. 2012, the spring and summer of 2012, were you associated with Blue Defense?
Yes.
Are you, in fact, a custodian of records for Blue Defense?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with the record-keeping system associated with Blue Defense and invoices that go to customers and such?
Yes.
Does that also include invoices associated with International Armor and their billing system to you ultimately getting the products to the inline customers?
Yes.
How, without getting into great detail, how does Blue Defense maintain records for customers? How do you do that?
It's a piece of software that manages the orders, allows people to place them online, and as a part of that, invoices are generated, and so that's what I provided for you.
Does that include invoices related to International Armor as well?
Yeah, we received those through email.
Also, does part of your record-keeping system include any sort of email or kind of transactions confirmation transactions, those types of things? Is that part of it as well?
Yes,
Are all of those invoices, those documents, those confirmations, are they all kept within your normal course of business for Blue Defense?
yes,
In late part of July 2012, were you contacted by law enforcement relating to gathering any sort of records from Blue Defense associated with the shooting at the Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado?
yes, I was.
Did you provide documents to law enforcement related to that?
I did.
Those documents, were they kept in the ordinary course of business for Blue Defense?
They were.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes.
Sir, I've handed you several documents there, and for record-keeping purposes, specifically Exhibits 362 and 363. Do you see those exhibits before you?
I do.
There is also a 364. I'm not referring to those exhibits. I'm referring just to 362 and 363.
Okay.
What I'd like you to do, sir, is just take a moment to look through People's Exhibits 362 and 363, if you would, please.
Yeah, these all look familiar.
What are those documents in general?
Basically invoices. One is from International Armor to Blue Defense, and there's also some notification here from PayPal, just letting us know that payment was made, and it might be a couple days to clear. And there's also here just kind of a screenshot of that piece of software that manages things for us.
Let me ask you this. Those documents that are contained within People's 362 and 363, are those the actual documents that you provided law enforcement?
They are.
Those documents, are they, again, kept in the normal course of business for Blue Defense?
Yes, they are.
And just for record-keeping purposes, these documents in 362 and 363, do they relate to a particular customer?
They do.
And what customer is that?
James Holmes?
Judge, at this time, I would move for admission of People's Exhibit 362 and 363.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I do have a limited objection to a couple of the pages.
Okay. Why don't you approach, please?
Okay.
The objection is sustained on hearsay grounds, but Mr. Edson, you may proceed as indicated at the bench.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, I'm going to draw your attention specifically to Exhibit 362, the very first page. Do you see that page?
I do.
What is that particular invoice related to?
Ballistic chaps.
No, let me rephrase that. What company is associated with that particular invoice?
International armor.
Okay, are you familiar with International Armor?
Yes.
As a routine and regular course of your business, do you receive invoices from International Armor?
Yes.
Explain how that works in your business, please.
So we'll receive an order through our system, or placed on our site, and then we'll go ahead and relay that to International Armor, who then goes ahead and ships out that order for us on our behalf, and that's how it works.
Even beyond this particular transaction that we're talking about, do you commonly receive invoices from International Armor?
Yes.
Are they one of your major, I'm not sure if suppliers is the right term, but one of the major manufacturers that you resell?
Yes.
Do you work closely with International Armor?
Yes.
Do you work closely with their billing system and their invoice system?
If close is just receiving these invoices, then yes.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, the records associated that the invoices that you receive from International Armor, are they made within the regular course of your business and their business?
Yes, invoices are communicated between both parties.
Okay. How do you know that they're within the regular course of business, not only for yours, but also theirs?
Oh, that I don't know for certain. I mean, yeah, I couldn't speak on behalf of that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What type of communication do you have between yourself and International Armor?
It's email notifying them that an order's been placed and that that needs to go ahead and be shipped, and then they invoice us for that product that gets shipped.
Do you have the ability and capability to interact with International Armor if there's any inaccuracy between invoices or orders?
Yes,
How does that work?
through email.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, the records that you've received here before you, the invoices specifically related to International Armor, are they within the regular and routine course of business for International Armor and for Blue Defense?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, again, going back to some of these foundational questions, the invoice from International Armor as well as yours for Blue Defense, are they accurate?
They are.
Are they the entries made within a reasonable time period as to when the order took place?
Yes.
If they weren't, would you know that as far as your communication with International Armor?
Yeah, we would. I mean, we keep an eye on in making sure that orders go out in a timely fashion, so it would have come to our attention that it wasn't placed.
To the best of your knowledge, the information received via the invoice from International Armor, is it transmitted by a reliable person who has knowledge from their end and from your end working together?
Yes.
Judge, again, I would ask for admission of the entirety of 362 and 363.
With that additional foundation, Ms. Higgs, any additional record?
Additional record.
Are you still objecting based on or following the additional foundation?
We do maintain our original objection, yes.
Okay, why don't you approach, please? All right, the objection is sustained in part and overruled in part. So part of the exhibit is admissible, part of it is not.
Judge, my apologies. May we approach one more time, please?
Yes. Here you go, sir. Thank you. Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, before you, I'd like you to look at People's Exhibit 362.
Okay,
The first page is the invoice from International Armor, is that correct?
that is correct.
The back of that particular page, does that continue to be the invoice from International Armor?
That, yeah, I'm not too certain if that connects to the first page here, but.
Okay, I need you to speak into the microphone.
Oh, I said,
please.
I'm not too sure if, this looks more like us maybe communicating, well, because it says right at top, Sales Blue Defense wrote, "Hi all, paid, please ship." So this might have been just something like a note they maybe put in to the invoice.
Who's they?
Oh, International Armor.
Okay, my question is that still part of the International Armor document?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. So the next page is a page that has what appears to be Gmail at the top. Do you see that within People's Exhibit 362?
I do.
Okay. Do you recognize that document?
This one here is a, yeah, notification basically from PayPal letting us know that an e-check payment was made,
Now
and that there might be some time for it to clear.
Okay, now you testified previously your interactions with International Armor, correct? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you also work with PayPal as part of your business at Blue Defense?
Yes.
How do you work with PayPal?
They process the payments.
What do you mean by they process the payments?
So when an order is placed, typically that's all automated and it goes right through them. So it's all automated and PayPal takes care of it.
Okay, now how do you communicate with PayPal related to the processing and the payments of some of your items?
Most shipments, most orders, they just kind of go right through with no complication. Seems like this one had a bit of a complication in that.
Yeah, I'm not going to have you testify to it. I'm not going to have you testify to it at this time. I'm just asking, how does your business interact with PayPal?
They process our payments.
Okay. Do they also communicate with you as well?
They do.
Okay. Is this an example, page 2 of Exhibit 362, the one that has Gmail at the top? Is that an example of a communication between yourself and PayPal?
It is.
Okay. Are these records, as you've already testified to, this interaction between Blue Defense and PayPal, are these records that you keep and maintain within the normal course of your business?
They are.
Are these also records that are made in the regular course of business between yourself and PayPal?
Yes.
Are these records also kept within the routine and normal course of business between yourself and PayPal?
They are.
Fair to say this isn't the only time that you've interacted with PayPal concerning a customer's record, is that correct?
Definitely not. No, not the first at all.
Not the first time that you've communicated between yourself and PayPal for the processing of payments and shipments and things of that sort, is that correct?
No, this isn't the first. No.
To the best of your knowledge, are the input procedures between yourself and PayPal associated with this particular document, are they accurate?
They are.
To the best of your knowledge, are the interactions, in fact, there's even a date associated with this particular document, are they made within a reasonable time after the request for the items in question?
Absolutely, yes.
To the best of your knowledge, is this information associated with PayPal transmitted by a person who's reliable, has knowledge of the information to you as Blue Defense?
Yes.
Okay, does that interact with all of the PayPal interactions that you have?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like you to look at the back of that particular page, if you would, please. I believe it has viewing order 331 at the top. Do you see that?
I do.
That particular record, is that a record from Blue Defense?
It is.
That's a record you actually keep, correct?
It is.
So the next page, again, is viewing order 333. Do you see that?
I do.
Is that also a record from Blue Defense?
It is.
That's an internal record related to Blue Defense, is that correct?
That's correct.
The back of that page, where it says invoice Blue Defense, do you see that?
I do.
Is that also a record maintained strictly from and for Blue Defense?
It is.
The next page, People's Exhibit 362, at the kind of the middle says viewing order 333. Do you see that?
I do.
Is this also a record kept and maintained by Blue Defense?
It is.
And that's a record that is of Blue Defense, is that correct?
That's correct.
The back of that particular document, is that all? Or anything, correct?
That's correct.
All right. The final page of People's Exhibit 362, another Gmail. That particular document, is that associated with International Armor?
This here is from International Armor to us.
Okay, to the best of your knowledge, all the same foundational questions that I laid for the previous international documents, they were invoices, but now we're talking about an email from International Armor. Do they all apply as well?
They do.
People's Exhibit 363, do you see that document?
Yes.
The first page is, again, another International Armor invoice. Do you see that?
I do.
All the same foundational questions that I previously asked for International Armor, do they apply?
They do.
The next back of that page is a continuation of International Armor. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
The next page is what appears to be a shipping label from International Armor. Are you familiar with that document?
I have not seen this personally myself because, as I mentioned before, they take care of all the shipping. So
Right, but are you familiar with having this record associated with you as Blue Defense? In other words, do
I
you,
wouldn't have anything more than potentially the tracking number.
okay, this particular record, who did it come from? When law enforcement requested all records from you, did you provide this record?
I did not. To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, no.
Okay. Judge, at this time, I would ask for admission of People's Exhibit 362 in its entirety and 363 with the exception of the last page that the witness was referring to, the shipping label.
Ms. Higgs?
I don't have any additional objections.
Are you still standing by your objection, the last objection that you made at the bench? With the exception of the last page, which Mr. Edson is withdrawing now.
We don't have any additional record or objection to
Alright.
this document.
Please approach. All right, without objection, the exhibit is admitted with the exception of the last page. So the last page is not, the last page of 363 is not admitted, but the rest of 363 and 362 in its entirety is admitted. And that's P-TR-362 and P-TR-363. Mr. Edson, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, just describe for the jury, if you would please, the general process when a customer goes on, I'm guessing the Blue Defense website, and orders an item such as ballistic chaps, like we're talking about in People's Exhibit 362 and 363. How does that work?
We receive the order, we make sure we've received payment, and then we ship out to the address provided.
And
Of course,
thi-
we relay that to be shipped out. We don't do it ourselves, but
who do you relay that to?
International Armor?
Okay, did you do that in this case?
Yes.
I'd like to direct your attention to let me backtrack here, and fair to say you've reviewed these documents before testifying, correct?
Yes.
And we're talking really about two different invoices from Blue Defense, is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to talk first about invoice 331, I believe. Do you see that within the packet?
331.
Be the back of the second page.
Okay, I see it here.
Okay. Tell the jury, if you would please, about order 331 for the bulletproof pants or ballistic chaps.
What would you like to know?
I'd like you to tell the jury exactly what the order was for, who
Oh, it
replaced
says
it.
James Holmes and for bulletproof pants.
Okay, so what exactly did an individual who purported to be Mr. Holmes order from your website?
It'd be the bulletproof pants.
Are the bulletproof pants also referred to as ballistic chaps?
They are.
Explain that for the jury, why the two different terminology there.
It just, they refer to it as something differently. Maybe it's a little easier to market as pants rather than chaps.
Who's they?
International Armor.
Okay, so International Armor calls them what?
Chaps,
And what do you refer to them as?
pants.
Okay. How many pairs of pants or chaps were requested?
1.
What was the total of the order?
Total $830.
Okay. What was the total with tax and such?
Oh, that would be $858.
Shipping, I should say.
Yeah, that does include shipping.
Okay, $858.
That's correct.
Who placed the order?
James Holmes.
What was the billing and shipping address?
They're both the same here. 1690 Paris Street, number 10, Aurora, Colorado, United States. And then this listed zip code here, 80010.
Is there an email associated with that particular order?
There is dsherlockb@hotmail.com.
Is there also an IP address associated with that invoice?
There is 67166-387.
Tell the jury, did that order go through?
It did.
I'm going to refer you to kind of the top right corner where it says incomplete. What does that mean?
So that's just because it was an e-check payment, and we didn't receive from PayPal. There's a like electronic sort of notification between our system and theirs if we've received the payment, and that's why we received that email letting us know to maybe hold off a couple days.
What date was the order placed for those bulletproof pants or ballistic chaps?
What? Can you rephrase?
Sure, what was the date of the order?
Oh, the date of this order here is listed as 6/30/2012.
Okay. I'm going to refer you to, which I believe is the next page there, which is viewing order 333. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay, tell the jury, what is that an order for?
This here is an order for bulletproof pants.
Okay. Is that the same order that you just described in order 331?
It is.
Tell the jury why we've got two different invoices.
It could be that this one was closed off, and so we just went ahead and opened up another one
Okay.
using the same information.
At the top right of order 333, there appears to be a word completed. What does that mean?
That signifies that the order was complete and it was shipped.
Okay. To that Paris Street address?
Yes,
Is it the same information you just testified to in the other order of being James Holmes and the same email address?
it is.
What was the grand total of the bulletproof pants ballistic chaps order for order 333?
$858,
What was the date of that order?
7/2/2012.
Okay, now to the best of your knowledge, when was the actual order placed? We've got two different order dates. You said June 30th, and now we have July 2nd.
Yes. So I would say it's the first one, but another way to sort of verify that would be when we first received notification from PayPal here, which looks like it was the 2nd. So this here, it would be when we received the first order here, because I mean that's when it came in
Would that be June 30th, 2012?
Yes, and then there was a little bit of complication there with the payment, so
Okay. Aside from the complication of the payments, all of that's included in that packet, is that correct?
it is.
To the best of your knowledge and your grand total of the review of that packet, was the order fulfilled and ultimately shipped to that Paris Street address?
Yes,
Okay, and the payment was processed?
yes.
All right. No further questions, Judge.
Cross-examination, Ms. Hicks.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any questions for you.
All right, it doesn't look like the jury has any questions, so may this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, Judge.
Is there any objection, Ms. Hicks?
No, Judge.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, members of the jury, it's 3:15, so let's go ahead and take our afternoon break at this time. We'll take 20 minutes. Please make sure you follow all of my advisements during the break. Enjoy the break. We'll see you back in 20. The record should reflect that the jury has left the courtroom now. Everyone may be seated. For the record, Exhibit P-TR-362 and Exhibit P-TR-363, with the exception of the last page in P-TR-363, were admitted pursuant to the business records exception to the hearsay rule, which is rule number 803, subsection 6. I found that the foundation had been established by Mr. Edson with respect to all the pages of the two exhibits, except for the last page of 363. So, Mr. Edson, you're going to have to modify that exhibit.
Two things briefly, if I may.
Yes.
Judge, our paralegal will do that. And again, this is attached to 364, which will come in through another witness tomorrow, so we'll have that other page excluded from 362 before that time period.
You mean from 363?
363, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Secondly, Judge, just for the record purposes, that witness was, his attendance was procured pursuant to P-121 that was signed by this court, an out-of-state witness petition, so he has satisfied that requirement, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Anything from the defense? No? Okay, see you after the break. Thank you.
All rise.
What? Oh, that's right, this, right, touch, open it up, remove it.